Hi, you're with India Post Live, India's first online news conversation web TV. I'm Ishan Russell, and India Post Live is, of course, a forum where you too can participate in this conversation, and we'd love for you to join in this conversation. Today, we're talking about marriage. Yes, marriage as an idea, whether it's become passe. I mean, it's fashionable for everybody almost these days to say, well, marriage can be put off for a bit because I have this, I have that, I have work commitments, or I'm just not into marriage. I do not believe in it, or just commitment of love is stronger. So there are a whole host of issues as far as marriage is concerned. On the other hand, there are people who are saying that arranged marriages are back, that people would rather go in for arranged marriages given the kind of scenario right now. So what is the real truth behind this? We'd love for you to come in and share your views about this as well. You can go to indiapostlive.com. That's the name of the website. Go log in over there, post your comments. You can come in via Skype or Google Hangout and join the conversation. You can also use Twitter, hashtag IndiaPostLive to your tweets, or use our Twitter handle at IndiaPostLive. But first, let's take you through what India right now is thinking about marriage.
In my opinion, you eventually need a companion in life.
Though the older family members will never stop badgering you about your marriage plans, but if marriage is not on the cards, good news, you're not the only one. In a world where relationships start on Facebook, thrive on Skype, and end on WhatsApp, marriage is taking a back seat. Many Indians are now warming up to the idea of living a life without being tied down by marriage and children. For some, it's also about independence. Many do not feel the need of living with a partner and are comfortable being panks, professional aunts with no kids, or punks, professional uncles with no kids. So, are the traditional Indian familial values slowly collapsing, or is it just a phase that too shall pass?
All right, so what do you think about it? Do join in the conversation. To discuss all this and more, I have in the studio with me Sheila Raval. She's a marriage and relationship counselor, and Lakshmi Krishna Kumar is our deputy editor, overseeing, as far as social commentary is concerned, the affairs at India Post Live. We'll also be joined by renowned psychologist Dr. Sameer Malhotra, and we are expecting you, of course, to join in and express your views about the idea of marriage as well. Dr. Raval, first,
Shaila will do
All
that.
right. So, as far as marriage is concerned, how do you view it in 2014? There certainly seems to be a difference. I mean, in my age group, in the 30s age group, people are not married. I'm not married, I'm 30. So, there are a host of people who are delaying that. Earlier, it used to happen pretty soon. What has changed?
Right. See, a lot of things have changed. First of all, the work scenario has changed drastically over the last 10 years or so. It's the women who are joining the workforce which has made a lot of difference to this decision of whether we should marry at a certain age or not. Because earlier, when the women were not independent, it was solely the family's decision. Okay, you know, matchmaking happened and the alliance was fixed and marriage took place. But now the women have a larger part to play. They have a role in saying, okay, this is the time I would like to get married, or whether at all I would like to get married or not. So definitely this is one factor that is contributing to what we are discussing today. Other than that, even the family structure has changed. Earlier it was, you know, the joint family structure was prevalent. Now we have moved on to the nuclear family structure. In that, you know, as a working woman, when you look at the whole scenario, there's a whole lot of added responsibility you are shouldering solely on your shoulder. Earlier, in a joint family setup, it worked well. Okay, you go out, you do your work. Even if you're married, you know, you come back to a house where things are looked after. Now, definitely that is also undergoing a change. So, these two factors are contributing in a big way to marriage either getting delayed or people choosing, like you said, even in the 30s, saying, okay, I'm not really ready for a commitment, as in a marriage commitment as of now.
All right, Lakshmi, belonging to the same age group, I mean, with the pressures, I'm sure you'll have people telling you, or questioning you, when do you get married? Do you plan to get married? So, do you plan to get married? What is your take on this entire
Of course, I do plan to get married, but you know, it's delayed. I mean, I was somebody who thought that I wouldn't want to get married, and you know, but you know, somewhere there when you know, think that okay, you need that companion, you don't want to, you know, go back home, you know, to this empty house. You want to make it a home, you know, not just leave it as this house, you know, you just come back and rest. But it's more than that, you know, or it's those realization you have some, you know, some time in your life. But I think these decisions are also, I'm not sure if it is just the joint family and all that. You know, the career, it plays a
Major
very,
role.
very important
Major
role.
role,
You
yeah.
you just don't want to say that I'm going to take a back
No,
seat
Yes.
now.
but Sheila,
Yeah.
well, I mean, I've heard and I talk to my friends about this, and the perspective that I often get is it's not just about career. It's also about that individuality that's come in. So we might have a joint family setup, then it moved to a nuclear family.
Yeah.
Now it's moved to an individual.
Yes.
Now you're your own individual, and that individual space, willing to share that space is something that is people are questioning
You
Yeah,
now.
what I'm trying
Yeah,
to say
sorry.
is that, sorry, the profession also defines your individuality.
Right.
You know, if you were to just sit at home and say that, okay, while my partner, you know, which usually is the man who wears the trousers, you know, the women, like when you say that the roles are switched, you always say that, you know, women are wearing the trousers these days. Why can't it be like we are still wearing the skirts and the, you know, saris and everything and still be doing that role? That individuality, you know, you can define it. You don't have to, you know, your profession defines you. And of course, you don't want to take that responsibility at that point in your life. You might just want to give that attention, focus on your work. And maybe it is much later that you want to turn to your, you know, okay, look, maybe I'm ready to have a
Right.
child, or, you know, dedicate some time here, because you've kind of secured your, you know, work identity, your profession, you know where you are. You don't feel that, you know, if I take a career break, you know, for to be a mother, will I be able to come back and continue? Take it off from there, because that's always a problem that people talk
Yes,
about.
yes, especially the women. And if we could change this, definitely more women would be saying, okay, I will get married at a certain age. And you know what happens here is when you give marriage such a long gap, like you said, you become your own person.
Yes.
And once you become your own person, you do tend to get a little rigid with age.
Of course.
So that comes in the way. I get so many cases of that happening once the marriage takes place, because you've already evolved and you do not want to say, okay, I'll give in this much, or if I give in this much, then the demand is you give in as much. So that is a problem that is being faced by people who are opting for late marriages. And what I would say here is, just take a step back and look at the larger picture. Definitely career is very important, but like she said, then after a certain time, coming back to an empty house is not what you want. So if you do this kind of introspection a little early in life, it does help in making the decision at probably a little earlier time in life, and that definitely I personally feel
I completely
does
agree
help.
with you.
I would beg to differ, because as far as the decision making goes, I mean, you make the decision when you're ready for it, when you found the right partner.
When are you ready?
So that's the whole point. The society these days might be gives you so many options, and that is if you're that spoiled for choice. If you're still saying that throughout my 20s I will explore, I will figure out what I want, and then I will decide to do so. Or in terms of marriage, in that there are also various other things that come in. For example, cohabitation with somebody, or as the cliche goes, live-in relationships.
Yes.
So how are these things also, because many would opt for a stronger commitment rather than a marriage. They say that I mean, we don't need a license from society to say that we should be living
No,
together.
tell me something. I always want to ask this question to people who have this viewpoint, and I'm not, looking at them in a negative way. When you say you are committed, so if commitment in our society is marriage, then what is keeping you back from getting married?
Maybe the fact that there are enough. I mean, why would you want to throw such a big marriage if you want to keep it really quiet? This thing. See, in India, marriage has also
Keeping
become
it, why
spectacles.
even court marriage? Why is that so important? Why can't it
Okay.
be without that? Why
And that's
can't-
what I'm asking you. Why would you like it to be without that?
Because you would not, I would not want societal sanction for anything that I do. It's my own individual choice how I exist to, how I choose to
Agreed,
exist.
agreed. Now the thing is, we will have to change the entire system to bring in this thought process, right? Now when this happens, it's a good thought process. I'm not disputing that. But in the given system, if we have to make it fit, and if you're really committed to that person, because it's not just a sanction, see, that comes with it. It is, we're looking at family. We're looking at a situation wherein, okay, when all is hunky-dory, good. But what if something goes amiss? Is the backup system, the support system, open enough to accept the other person or support the other person in an emotional way? Herein, I'm not bringing in finances at all. But that kind of support, when you're maybe a husband or a wife, that which comes in with the family support that I'm talking of will probably, it will take a while in the Indian setup for the live-in partners to get that kind of a standing. And all I'm saying is कि अगर आपकी उतनी commitment है, then why not marriage? Because there's so many pluses attached to it.
Oh, could we, I mean, the
Yeah,
pluses attached to it, I would like to
absolutely,
discuss the
absolutely.
pluses attached to it. What are the
Pluses, like I talked about, see, the support system is great. Then the legalities, as in, for it to change, will take a long time. Let's get the ball rolling. I'm saying change it. Let's change the policies. Like she said, that once you get married, then you're thinking of motherhood. Thinking of motherhood in the present scenario means taking a step back, giving your career a break. Why should it be that? Let's, you know, all these things have to be addressed. And after that, if live-in is what you want, or if being absolutely single, why go there?
Yeah,
if you just want, why? So be it. But when we are talking of a commitment, what I say is that in the present system, like I said, pluses बहुत होते. See, when everything is going great, you don't even question all those things. It's like, let me talk of a very drastic thing, that what if the husband or if the male partner in a relationship or the female partner, what if he or she is no more? The kind of emotional support that you do need, you might feel your friends will give it to you. You might feel you have enough people to, you know, give it to you. But a family setup giving it to you, me being a counselor, it really, really helps the healing process. So from that point of view, this is a major plus. Then talking of, even if we bring the finances in play here, now if the woman was not very financially stable, now if she's in a live-in relationship, there's nobody who's going to take the onus of responsibility. But if she was married, if God forbid she's a widow today, there is a system backing you up there. So till this changes, I'm not saying...
No, can't there be people who've made that corpus? Let's talk about in terms of money.
Yeah.
And there is a support system. Let's say that.
Got it.
Yeah.
For those, I'm not talking here in when I talk of these things, like I said, for those jinka financial stability is a factor, then this comes in. Not for everyone.
And also support system. You're talking about emotional support
Yeah.
and all of that.
Yeah.
So why can't it be that support system that you build with your friends and even the family that's there? I mean, the family, you
friends
take
will
them into
always-
confidence.
Friends, because
But
same
has
age
that
group, yeah.
changed? Because the Friends aspect of
Yeah.
it, I mean, based on this famous series Friends, I think Indians started living their lives like that, especially in urban India. So you, from just the traditional family structure, you had this, now you have a structure of friends. You have
extended
a,
family,
a strong network over there. And
Yes.
often people seem to rely more on that, and there are more, in fact, avenues available in
Yes.
terms of exploration, in terms of finding newer partners, in terms of newer ideas.
Yes.
So therefore, in such a scenario, does the individual take dominance over the idea of a couple or a larger identity as a family unit?
That is also happening. I'm not disputing that. That is also happening. But what I'm saying is, when there is a situation where all those factors are missing, then if you're married, then all this gets supplemented. That's what I'm talking of. I'm not disputing that, okay, the friends are giving you a good support system. No disputing that. But then let's also face one thing. When we talk of friends, more or less we're talking of people in the same age bracket. And a wiser person, an older person is a wiser person, is more mature. In times of crisis, definitely the inputs coming in due to the additional age factor are definitely a plus.
All right, interesting. You mentioned that over there. But Lakshmi, as far as the idea of marriage is concerned, leaving men aside, for women these days, it's become, I think, and that because of that financial independence. I mean, even a marriage is not secure anymore, given the high rates of divorces. So women have to secure their own future, their own. I mean, you have to have that kind of a bank balance so that tomorrow, if anything goes wrong, be it death or be it divorce, you are able to sustain yourself. Isn't that true for a working woman these days?
Exactly.
That's priority number one than a child now, I think.
Exactly. See, you know, it's also sometimes when you're working, there is this double burden, which is always like the woman is supposed to get home. I mean, both, maybe the partner, you both reach home the same time, or whoever the other person is. And it's the woman, you know, is expected to cook and serve and be there all the time. And there was this time when I said that, you know, I'm not going to get married because of this. When I had a family member live with me, of course, I love my family and everything, but it just so turned out that you get home and you have to do all these things. And at work, you know, all these things are going in your head. I have to go and I have to do this, I have to. So it's a lot of, you know, things to worry about. So if at all, then you are going, like you said, become rigid. I don't want to compromise. I really don't want to compromise. It should be about understanding. It should not be about compromises, what you think, because you get there where you don't want to make compromises anymore. You make compromises at work, you make compromises everywhere. But when it comes to your life, why do you want to make compromises? You want somebody who understands. And that's also one of the reasons, you wait and you say that, I can be 34, I can be 40, I'll settle down, or if that is the, the thing that you use, settle down, and only if you find a partner that's,
who understands you
yeah,
well
who
enough.
understands. Not,
And
I
here-
don't want to compromise.
Yeah, here sensitizing people to this will really help. We just talk upar ki baatein karte hain, but actually sensitizing people, as in, like she said, ki okay, you have a partner who's understanding enough. From where is that understanding going to come? Because once you're a couple, even in a live-in relationship, there are certain expectations or whatever that are at play. So herein sensitizing the male counterpart that okay, this is what it is, she's also doing XYZ, and if you contribute, it's no big deal. Now this is what I'm talking of, the system has to change. The thought processes have to change.
All right, let's in fact have a peek into the thought processes, into the minds of various people. We asked them, we went out on the street and asked people what they thought about marriage. Here's what they had to say.
Youngsters don't want to get married because they want to escape from commitments.
We want more of freedom. That's why we don't want to get married.
आज की जनरेशन रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज़ नहीं लेना चाह रही है.
इंडिपेंडेंट चाहते हैं, कोई रोके ना टोके ना, और आफ्टर मैरिज तो रोकना और टोकना तो चलता ही है. जो भी वैल्यूज़ थे, जो हमारे संस्कार, वो आज मेरे अकॉर्डिंग उनके अंदर नहीं है.
People are getting to live in open relationships and live in relationships.
Because of relationship issues, people are not comfortable. They find it easy to have a time pass relationships than a permanent relationship.
Main issue is that commitment is a big thing. There is a lot of explorations and all, but then when it comes to committing to one single person, that is not happening.
All right, so Shaila, the impermanence of life. This is one of my favorite quotes, I mean, from my own understanding or ideas of life. But the impermanence of life compared to the permanence, the constant idea of a marriage and of another individual. Because at the end of the day, I mean, even love wanes, then it becomes more about companionship. So how does one strike that balance, so to say?
See, herein again, if you're married, that is when you will probably even make the effort. Because it's very, and relationships these days are starting so much earlier.
Yeah.
So, your concept of, okay, what a relationship should be is very different today. So, like one of the viewers said that, commitment kyun karna? It's easier to get in and out of relationships. But with time, it does take a toll. With time, like she's saying, you do want somebody that we all as humans have a need to belong to one particular person who really understands us. Now, that understanding is to be worked upon. And permanence should not be scary. See, most of them, when they were talking of marriage, were talking of band jayenge. फिर तो वही करना पड़ेगा, we'll have to do whatever the other person wants.
But they're not talking in terms of conventional roles of cooking and cleaning. They're also talking in terms of their individuality getting consumed.
Yes.
And is that a fear, Lakshmi, that many women would also face these days? Because I think men do. That there's individual space that I've created for myself, my likes, dislikes. As you said, it often becomes rigid, but then that defines you. That defines you at the end of the day.
It does. You don't want to please, or you don't want to do these things. You just want, to do what you want. It's that. And of course, it's not that you don't want to have a relationship or any of those things. It's just that you've become a certain way, and you like that certain way. You don't want to lose it.
Yeah.
And when you, of course, when you get into relationships, things change. And like you were saying, Ishan, that that it's the love, it fades away, or it's not the same anymore. The romantic love that goes away, and then it's more.
See, I give a very simple example here. We talk of a bicycle, the two tires, and when you move and both the tires have enough air, the movement is very smooth. Now the moment one of the tires gets deflated, what happens?
The cycle will move forward.
Either it will not move forward, or the movement is really, really going to be very difficult. You really have to, tag it along, trudge it along. So what needs to be done?
Refills.
So this is what most of the people are not wanting to do.
Yeah, because then the option that is what I am saying. So, are we heading towards a society where we all become individuals? In fact, I want to get in Dr. Sameer Malhotra. We've been trying to get him for some time. Thanks very much, Dr. Sameer Malhotra, for coming in. Dr. Sameer Malhotra is, of course, a renowned psychologist. Dr. Malhotra, we've been talking about marriages and how the idea is changing about a marriage, people's attitude towards marriage. What would you contribute this to? I mean, in terms of the changing attitudes.
See, the society is changing, and if we closely look into it, perspectives are changing, and by and large, people are getting involved with themselves more than getting into communication with others over a period of time. Now, as a result, what is happening is priorities are changing, and nowadays people are getting more and more career oriented, so they want to spend their time in their career, and they get that kind of kick out of it, and the ability to control their own lives as per their choice and their parameters. So somewhere down the line, when we look at marriage, the person is looking at some kind of an adjustment and some kind of a sharing of responsibility and commitment, which perhaps is going amiss in today's world, where people want to live their lives on their terms and conditions.
Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Not a very, see, you can't club it as a good thing or a bad thing. I think a lot depends on the person's context, from where the person is coming from, the kind of upbringing that a person goes through, the kind of personality profile of that individual, and the kind of circumstances that the person is in. I know certain people who are living individual lives and are very happy about it. I know certain couples who are in a marital relationship and are not very happy about it. So it's a matter of your context and the way you are looking at it. But I think at the end of the day, we should not just straitjacket ourselves into one particular model. And we should always be looking forward to some kind of an adjustment, because that induces flexibility. And I think flexibility helps you feel good about yourself and about the environment. But once we are too straitjacketed into a model and we are too strong about that opinion that we hold, then unless there is a very clear reason to it, I think one should carefully look into what are the factors which could have contributed to that individual stance that the person takes.
All right, you wanted to come in.
I was just thinking with this flexibility, you should be more flexible. That is what, marriage does, or you have a partner that's... But isn't that what you do everywhere else? Why do you want to do that in your personal life? You do that at your workplace, you do that at, different other levels. You did it in your school, you did it everywhere. Why do you want to, end up doing
at the end of the day, often to my generation, marriage seems like a compromise, that you've decided to live together because financially you'll be okay, you'll be settled, you want to have a child, you want your progeny to be there, so that for the sake of the child you should get married.
With all that idealism that it's going to be so perfect, and it is not that, it's just so different, and you see people around you, you see everything else, and then it's just not that way, and you just end up being miserable and sad, and all of that. Why have all of that?
No, but then not all marriages are about misery and about sadness.
But a lot of people talk about it all the time.
Yeah, Dr. Malhotra, the amount of jokes that I've heard about my marriage is bad, or my marriage is this thing or that thing, or my wife has had this thing. That is the convention, and that is what perhaps a generation has witnessed in terms of marriage, and for the previous generation to pass on the flag to the next generation, or the torch to the next generation, they handed over the torch saying that, all right, it isn't a perfect system, and therefore people are trying to invent their new systems. Isn't that?
See, I'll tell you one thing. When we talk of marriage, generally what the concept is, two people merging as one. Please.
It's so beautiful to think about it.
No, but that is very, it is not true.
It's
It's not true. And problems are created when you feel that is the way it should be. When you are two individuals, the very fact that you're getting married does not mean that you're giving up your individuality. You still are those two individuals, but you just, like we said,
lower your expectations.
You have to, yes.
But why don't we don't want to lower the expectations?
I'll tell you what, the expectations are coming from where? From where are your expectations about this marriage coming from?
Yeah, because
from your what you want, what you decided that I want these things in my life. This is how I am. This is who I am.
Yeah, and also, एक idealistic situation को we are already preconceived है in our mind that okay, this is how it should be.
Blame Bollywood movies.
Exactly, I am with you on this, because that is not what marriage is. That is not what marriage is at all. like she said, in office we are, compromising, we are being flexible. See, in life, the moment you are rigid, what is it indicative of? You're not going to change. And let's face it, change is the only constant in life. So when two individuals come together, they're bound to be changes. But why are we looking at it that the changes are only going to be negative? They can be very positive, and like we said, the key here is understanding and talking about it before you get married. Clarifying all these
I
things.
think talking about it after you get married is also equally important. Talking about your own
Definitely,
marriage.
it's an ongoing process.
All right. In fact, I just want to remind all of viewers that you too can join in this conversation. IndiaPostLive.com is the name of the website. Just go log in over there and post your comments. Also, you can use Twitter to join in. Hashtag IndiaPostLive to your tweets, or use our Twitter handle at IndiaPostLive. Dr. Malhotra, you've been hearing what our panelists over here have had to say.
I would agree with the way the conversation is taking shape. See, whenever we come with fixed ideas and we are not prepared to adapt or adjust in life, then perhaps it reflects a kind of a rigid approach. And when we talk about human values and we talk about human bonding, even when you have two siblings at home, there will be differences of opinion. But give me any other alternative as a system that works better than marriage in today's world, or in whichever place or wherever you have been in the past. So I don't think so there's any other alternative which overrides the kind of system of marriage which is prevalent. Yes, there would be people always who are not very willing to get
then why are an increasing number of people choosing not to get married or not to get married? They might be willing to fall in love and be committed to people for the rest of their lives. Then why is that happening? And it's increasing by the day.
See, there could be several reasons to it. Like I said, there could be personality-based reasons. There could be the kind of contextual reasons that they are in. At times, people don't want to get themselves committed to one partner. Or at times, they are not willing to share the responsibility. So if that is the issue, and of course, yes, people have the freedom of choice. So in a democratic framework, we can't force a person into one way or another way of thinking and believing. But so long as the person is able to live a happy life, good for that individual. The only issue here is you would always find people with certain set of personalities who would not like to adapt and adjust according to, or perhaps somewhat, to the circumstances. And they are the ones who would remain, somewhat in their own shells, or perhaps would like to live life the way they want to. Now, they should not be forced into a kind of a committed relationship like marriage, because there, perhaps for them, adapting and adjusting to that role might be a bit difficult. But the ones who would love to get into a kind of a commitment, have a child of their own, and perhaps rear the child with mutual support. But there are three basic things in a married life, I think, which we should not negate. One is mutual trust. The second thing is, yes, accept that you are two different individuals, but you have the right to take care as well as comfort your partner to some extent. That is your duty as well. So I think mutual comfort, mutual concern, mutual trust, care and responsibility and sharing approach does kind of happen over a period of time in a marital relationship, because you bond over your children as well. So there are different levels at which you bond. One is as two individuals, the other is when you're looking towards the future or perhaps rearing of your child. So there are many ways of, and then you enjoy certain moments together as a family. So this is one system which perhaps gives you that laxity and that leverage to bring about your child and to perhaps bond with another person who comes from a different world altogether.
All right, interesting point you make over there about the child, and that is what I mean. For most of my friends, that's a simple factor. The moment I decide to have a child, I will get married, because then I will look look towards the child's future, so that there are no questions or no problems as far as the child is concerned. But meanwhile, let me live my life and let me enjoy it while I can, and that is the that is, I think, where the attitude problem comes in, that I am not enjoying my life, or I will not be able to enjoy my life once I get
Not be able to. See, the key here is not be able to. That notion is already there in your head. You're entering the marriage with this notion in mind that I will not be able to enjoy my marriage. And there's so many, like we said, jokes floating around. And it just, just strengthens that belief system even more. So it is totally up to the two individuals who are getting into the relationship to sit down, sort it out, talk about the expectations, talk about levels that can be met, to what extent they can be met, and then proceed.
All right, Lakshmi, I'll give you the final word. As far as marriages go, what would you think? Is the trend here to stay, that get married late, or you might not get married at all?
No, I think it's a lot to do with the shelf life also. Like earlier, you look, oh, you have to finish everything off, get married soon. But now I don't think that shelf life is there. You can get married when you choose to, when you find the partner who's understanding, and when you're not willing to make those compromises. Flexibility, of course, I agree, that will be there. It'll come in, but it should be understanding, and it won't be compromising. That's the way it's going. It's just the shelf life concept. We don't.
All right. So, yeah, Dr. Malhotra, final word before we let you go.
I would say marriage is about we over me. And I think somewhere down the line, you learn to adapt, adjust, just like we adapt and adjust with our family members, our parents, our siblings. It's a similar kind of a relationship, but it has its own positives. And I think one should look towards the positive aspect if at all a person is planning to get married. But remember, trust, empathy, understanding, care, responsibility, sharing and caring approach is what takes you forward. And later in life, you're able to remain happier because you have a partner to share with. Otherwise, what happens after the age of 70 and 80? Whom do you relate to? And when you see other people in your family or perhaps in your relatives and friends grow and have their own families, at times you may feel a bit isolated later in life. So there are many aspects to it, I think. But yes, at the end of the day, it's your personal choice based on the context, based on your personality profile and your liking and dislikes.
All right, on that note, we'll wrap up. But I think the debate would still continue, and I wish all our viewers, you continue this debate with us, this conversation with us. What do you think about marriage? Do you think it's passé, or do you think it's here to stay, and it's the best form of societal adjustment or the societal being that one person can have? Thank you very much, Dr. Malhotra, for coming, and thank you very much, Shaila and Lakshmi, for coming into this conversation. The conversations, of course, continue right here on India Post Live, so do stay tuned.